Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman, of course, joined by Mike McLaughlin. We are at our second to final episode of the 25-26 football season. It is Championship Sunday coming up, Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. This show brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, www.wrightwoodmedical.com. They're your leader in refurbished and used medical equipment. Call them directly at 773-848-7100. Mike, we start with last night. What a classic down at Hard Rock in Miami. I don't even know where to begin. If there was a better national title than I ever saw, I don't remember it.
Yeah, and
I don't know. I don't know where you fall, and it was just incredible drama, incredible theater. And boy, Miami showed a lot of heart. I know the story is Indiana, and the story, of course, to the victor goes the spoils. But Miami really had a lot of big answers and key moments when you thought they were gone, you thought they were dead. A lot of tricks in their sleeves with the speed of Tony. Great coaching by Cristobal. Great coaching by Nettie.
Which is rare that you say that about Cristobal. I mean, he made some terrible decisions. I mean, he's cost his team's games by not kneeling the ball over and over. I weirdly thought
I thought they were going to win it.
I thought they were going to win it too, and then I remembered Carson Beck was their quarterback, and if they needed him to drive for a game-winning touchdown, they've been hiding him all year. Ever since those two games against SMU and Louisville, he has not been their guy, and they've been hiding him. And so once it kind of came down to that, right as he threw the interception, I was like, oh, why did I think they were going to win? I mean, it's Beck. I mean, it was a terrible pass.
Yeah.
Yes, and he forced it. He forced it, and it was unnecessary. And for as good as Indiana has looked all year against everyone they've played, it does show what we have been talking about all year. Where's the strength of Miami? Offensive line and defensive line, and they hung with them, and they pushed them around. There's going to be some guys playing on Sundays on both sides of Miami lines because they've got some just monsters, and I think they were one of the rare teams that could give Indiana was as physical as Indiana. Indiana's been one of the more physical teams all year.
I think the game, Mike, there's so many NFL players that were on the field last night. It's hard to count. I from my 2 cents, I'm not a scout, but that kid on Indiana Pons, I think is the clear number one player that was on the field last night. He would be my number one pick. I don't know where you go with that, but he's a lockdown corner, that kid. He could play. Love the way he played against Daniels, who I have such regard for. And if he can do that to Daniels, he can do that to anybody. Is kind of my thing with him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the great American experiment of sending, the good Catholic boy from Miami to Las Vegas to see how quickly he can be ruined. Because I'm not completely sold on Mendoza. Everybody seems to think, and I personally think the Raiders have way too many issues, and I think but it is a very weak quarterback class this year, and we all know quarterbacks always get drafted higher than they should. But if I'm the Raiders, I'd try and sell that pick to the Jets, and especially because the Jets have all these assets. You got a chance. You're not one player away in Las Vegas. No. But when have the Raiders ever done anything smart when Mark Davis is involved? I mean, he wants a shiny new toy, and he can have Mendoza marrying people as a side gig on the Vegas Strip. So because he's this and like character.
You don't have to look into the crystal ball or wonder what would I do if we trade this pick. The Bears had a much, much more difficult situation when they made the same decision a few years ago to trade the pick to Carolina for Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young at that moment in time was a much more of a this guy's going to be huge in the NFL kind of quarterback. The Bears looked off him, got draft capital. Look where they are now. But so it's not like you have to make some leap of faith here. I think it's a no-brainer for Vegas to trade the pick. But people both know they're not a sharp organization. They'll probably keep the pick. They'll think there's some kind of marketing to the Hispanic community of Las Vegas. I think that's how they'll think. Honestly, with going with Mendoza, that's fine. That is better. That is valid, and I think they're going to play off of that. And I think that's going to weigh out in their boardroom versus the overall strengthening of their team. I think that's how they'll think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it once quarterbacks get involved, everybody goes crazy. And the thing is, if you can get a superstar quarterback, it changes your team's destiny. I just don't think Mendoza is a superstar quarterback. I may be in the minority, and I haven't watched a ton of Indiana. I've just, I watched their big games, but I think the quarterback position is, you got to go after it every single time. But I think you're going to be set up to be successful if you have a great offensive line and then insert the quarterback. But
yeah, and the quarter, yeah, exactly.
I don't. So
no.
So what did you? Are you still in mourning over your Bears?
Well, like I said, I've wrestled with that game on so many different levels. We talked about it a little bit before we hit the record button. I don't know. I'm not a big enough scholar to understand whether or not that was a great performance by Caleb Williams or a bad performance by Caleb Williams. Again, direct answer. Now, I am not interested in people with I know what he did good. I also know what he did terribly. Okay. So the question was it a great performance, Mike? Was it a terrible performance? Or I guess I'd let you off and say it's in the conundrum that is Caleb Williams, and it's not a lock that he's coming back for that second deal like most people think he is, because it's tough to get over that pick in overtime. I understand that DJ Moore broke on the play, gave up on the route. Cam Curl did not.
That was absolutely on DJ Moore. I'm not. Listen, I think Caleb, I would say he had an up and down game. I mean, his highs are higher than a lot of quarterbacks in the league, and his lows are very below average. If what I would be concerned about as a Bear fan is a couple of things. First place schedule next year coming into, because of you came in first in the North after playing a third. The second thing that would make me a little nervous is that everybody is sort of treating this game as a moral victory. Yeah. And if I am Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson seems certifiably crazy, I will say that he does.
Signetti crazy or
no? Signetti's facial feature. I think Ben Johnson maybe like. We may have to investigate if there's any type of like choking going on in alleys in Chicago. Like what was that book? The Great White North, or there was a book about the Chicago Fair in 1917.
I'll be in the White City.
Yeah, I don't think he's a murderer, but he's a lunatic, and I think his message to Caleb has to be what you have been saying all along. You have to be more consistent. You need to be over 60% next year. We need you working towards getting 65% completion, because, like I said, his highs are spectacular, but some of the throws he misses, he just can't. They're not NFL. That's not NFL caliber. So but very few quarterbacks can do what he does. Like that throw, the Hail Mary throw, he dropped back 26 yards, right? Mahomes can do that. Josh Allen can do that. I mean, he may have the strongest arm in the league. Caleb, I'm dead serious. I think he's got maybe the strongest arm in the league, but he's got to be more consistent. And so I think if Johnson can get with him and say, look, let's focus a lot less on the spectacular and let's really hammer the mediocre, the in betweens, and then they'll take off. And the other problem I have that I worry about with Chicago is the expectations next year. Is this fan base? If I've learned anything about this fan base, other than the most pessimistic Bear fan on the planet, they over evaluate everything. They are expecting to be in the Super Bowl next year. I don't know anyone in Chicago right now who will not be purchasing a ticket for the Bears to win the Super Bowl next year, and it's going to be a much harder road. They're going to be the hunted, not the hunter. So the moral victory thing, I really, like you have said, his passing percentage needs to come way up. He needs to stop being so. I mean, I don't ever want him to lose the spectacular, but if he can get get to the 65% range, he's going to be a real problem. And there won't be any question as to whether he will get a second contract. In my opinion, he can do that if he really works on it.
I know, but Mike, that's the big but. We're going into year 3 of it. It's the now or never year with regard to the second deal.
He is unless something goes drastically wrong, he is an absolute block to get that second guy. He's at least getting the 5th year, and something has to really go wrong, in my opinion. I don't see any chance that he's not getting signed. But that's
okay. I've always been just a little weary of that, but look at overall, I was proved wrong. The Bears had a huge year. The Bears made a great showing of themselves in the playoffs and against the Rams, obviously against the Packers. So, hey,
yeah, I mean, and I do want to say I'd sent you a clip over the week after on Monday. That pass that he threw again. This is where I worry that Caleb isn't getting enough blame for the things he should get blamed for, which is missing the mediocre throw. But the pass that he threw to more rounded out the route. Caleb was
curl.
He threw the ball with the intention that his receiver was going to get there and
get it,
or made if you watch the video of the all 22, he made a half-ass attempt at it, and the guy
Cam Curl didn't. Nope. So there's the difference. Cam Curl was the pro in the scenario, and DJ Moore was the total amateur of the two. Cam Curl had every reason to quit on the play. It was a hard pick. He picked it up off the ground. He did not quit on the route, but the receiver did.
And you just can't. I mean, that's something that will go. It goes down as a quarterback stat. That is not all interceptions are created equally.
No,
there are times when you throw to a spot and a guy doesn't do what he's supposed to, and
if you need a less than that, you got to watch C.J. Stroud's picks against New England. Those are all awful picks. Those are ridiculous picks. So they're not in the same league. The picks that C.J. Stroud threw versus Caleb Williams. So that I totally understand that and agree. Okay, they're just not.
And in comparing those two quarterbacks, let's be very honest. C.J. Stroud came into the league, took the league by storm, and Caleb came into the league and did not do well at all, and was poorly coached. And then the finger pointing all last season. Stroud was a rocket, and he has progressively gotten worse every season. Like there is a real problem in Houston. We have a problem is a legitimate concern because that defense against New England deserved better. I mean, Will Campbell, who was the number 1 overall, New England's pick, who everybody criticized for having short arms. That guy was on. I don't know why he decided to play on roller skates on Sunday, because he was getting moved around. Like he did not look like a guy that should have been a 5th round draft pick. I mean, I was talking to people I'm friends with up in New England, and they're like, he's getting killed. So I mean, and give credit again. Nobody's giving New England credit. New England's got a terrible schedule. They're this. You can only play the people in front of you. That they're catching another break with Bo Nix being out.
Yes.
Hey, if the Bears were a team of destiny, maybe New England's a team of destiny. I still think the winner's coming out of the NFC. for the Super Bowl. But I mean, and like the 49ers, you took the 49ers. I think that's one of those things. I think Shanahan has done probably deserves maybe coach of the year or how well he is. But at some point,
ran out of gas.
well, the injuries just mount up. I mean, there's a level of attrition that you just can't look past. And the Seahawks are as healthy as any team in the league, but I still think they're vulnerable. But San Francisco had has lost too many people.
Totally. Before we get on to our picks, a quick about the Buffalo Denver game and the ramifications that occurred after it. Obviously, Sean McDermott loses his job. I don't have a problem with that. Again, if we're living in a world where John Harbaugh loses his job and Mike Tomlin loses their job, and those are Super Bowl winners, now we've got a guy that was gifted Josh Allen until he was 30 years old and hasn't done anything with it. The only question I have there is the same question I have for universities that fire a coach and keep the AD. Don't know how Brandon Bean not only keeps his job, I believe got an extension. Never will understand.
He got a promotion.
Yeah,
He's the head of
I own my own company. That's not how things work here. So I maybe someone has to take me back. I have an MBA, so I guess I didn't learn that part of profitability, accounts, liability, assets. I guess that I just was sleeping during that time where if somebody is in charge of a catastrophic mistake to your organization, they usually don't get extended or promoted when the other person is shown the door. But I know it happens in corporate. I know it happens all the time in corporate America. I know it happens. It definitely happens a lot in NCAA. That's the home of it.
Well, and with Bean, apparently, since Josh Allen, he's had 54 picks. He only has 2 Pro Bowl selections after that. It's Kincaid and Cook are the only 2 guys. Now, he's done a good job. They have an excellent offensive line, but
they've done nothing, Mike. They've done nothing.
What I would be most angry about if I am any like John Harbaugh, I would have been like, wait a minute, the Bills job was open. I'm going to go work for Jackson Dart versus Josh Allen. I mean, you talk about a Josh Evan, Harbaugh to the Bills, and apparently I read something over the weekend that apparently this was a done deal if he didn't get to the Super Bowl. This was preordained. So if you are,
that's fair.
I think it's fair too. He's had multiple opportunities. The 13-second game against the Chiefs, where he didn't kick the ball through the end zone, is just one of the. You can't give up a field goal with 13 seconds left, especially as you're the defensive guru. I just, if I was one of those coaches that was interviewing for a job, I would have been like, good Lord, the Bills job is available. I mean, you've got probably the top 1 or top 2 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, but Mike, he's going to be 30 and next year's opening day. They've done nothing. This is not the plum job that you're talking about here. This is not the team that's on the cusp of a golden era. The golden era is past them.
Listen, Jackson Dart will be in concussion protocol by week 4 based on the way he runs. If I'm picking an organization to be with, I understand the Giants are a Tiffany franchise and they have history. They're as bad of a run organization in the last 20 years as that they have. Take a look at the Jets record and take a look at the Giants record, and outside of those couple of playoffs where they won like 7 games, it's a bad organization. And I'm not saying that Buffalo is a great organization because I don't like the owner. I hate when owners take money from the state to build stadiums, but they're at least doing things right, and they weren't successful for a long time until McDermott got there.
Mike, again, they haven't been successful. First off, okay, so let's not talk about them like they are the Patriots in the early part of the century. Okay, it's not like they've been this successful team. The Giants, who you don't think are a good team, have won 4 championships. That's incredible compared to Buffalo. So until Buffalo wins 4 championships, it's not that bad of a job. It's really not. Think about the Giants, Mike. I mean, Scatterboo, Tracy as their backfield. They get back Neighbors.
The last time the Giants won a Super Bowl was 15 years ago.
Okay, when was the last time Buffalo won one?
They've never won one.
Okay. So what are we fighting about?
But what we're fighting about is who's the better organization currently. I think that the Giants have a rich history, and that doesn't mean jack squat when you're talking about what they've done lately. In the past 15 years, they're one of the worst run organizations in football. Look at the number of coaches that have come out of the Giants. Right. They had that buffoon who couldn't fit into a suit. I forget his name, with the long hair. Then they had Joe Judge. Then they had Dayball. You know, Coughlin was
Fossil.
I mean, they're. I mean, again, you can give teams credit for what they've done. You know, just because you buy Secretary, I'm going to use my horse. I don't know anything about horsing, but yeah, horse choosing. Just because you buy Secretariat's kid doesn't mean that the horse is going to be any good at racing.
No, it's true. It's funny you mentioned that. Secretary was actually a horrible sire. So there's a lot of validity to that. A lot of it. That's a very good analogy because you're right. There's a lot of very famous horses that had horrible offspring. And
listen, I just want to say it's been a successful season for me because I finally made a good horse analogy, since I don't know.
Oh, you're solid. Okay, so Mike has maintained his 60% clip, which is unbelievable. You go around, folks, look at a podcast, people are getting killed. The guy that's talking to you is 0-5 in the playoffs, ATS. So
you're
Mike,
perfect, though. You're perfect. There's
that's right.
Strive for perfection.
That's right. So Mike will lead us off. We'll take them both. This floor is yours, Mike. Go ahead. Can't be wrong Sunday.
Are we picking both games, or
we'll take both games?
All right. Well, that changes my philosophy, but
okay.
I'm gonna stick with the team that got me, the team I've been on all year. I did not, felt like they could have covered had Caleb not pulled a rabbit out of his hat. In the end, they would have covered for me. But I will say this. I think McVay, I'm taking the Rams plus 2.5 against Seattle. I think Seattle, you're getting at an all-time high because they beat the hell out of a battered San Francisco team. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the 2 games that they have played, they've both been close. But I'm going to what I thought was the more significant game. They played on a Thursday night like 4 weeks ago. Short week. The Rams flew up to Seattle, and they played without Devontae Adams.
It was like a 38-37 game.
It was 38-37, and Seattle converted 3 2-point conversions, which is and one of them was that kind of hokey one where, they went to the kickoff and then they said, actually, the ball went forward. But the Rams took their foot off the gas in that game. And I think that game, if I'm going down with who I think the better quarterback is. I think the Seahawks have a decided advantage on special teams. I think the Seahawks have a decided advantage on defense. But just for the life of me, I cannot understand. And I'm explaining why I shouldn't be taking this pick. But I also think McVay, he is the kind of coach that will have something up his sleeve, especially in a third matchup. And I don't think he's called good games in Carolina, and I don't think he's called good games in Chicago. But I think that these 2 teams, because it's their third time, going to Seattle can be intimidating to some people. It's not going to be intimidating to the Rams. And so I like the Rams getting the points. And I've been on the Rams all year. I'm not going to abandon them just because they look like crap the last 2 weeks. And I think Seattle is, I'm also going against the Pope theory. The Pope, every time a Pope gets elected, the Seahawks go to the Super Bowl. So I'm abandoning my own Catholic faith, but I I don't like the Seahawks either, so I'm taking the Rams plus 2.5.
I will start with the other ball game, which is Denver against New England. Folks, you know where I'm going to take you. What's the line? Let's start with what's the line if Bo Nix is playing. Everybody have a number in their head? Can we all agree that it's somewhere between Denver minus 1.5 to Denver minus 2.5? Is that fair? Okay. So now comes what we did learn in business school. That premium, that big word that we all have to understand what it means to you, what it means in the marketplace. What is the buyer's premium? So let's just take the lower of the two numbers. Let's take 1.5. It opened at 5.5. Okay. Is Bo Nix 7 points to the premium of Jared Stidham? I mean, may I say the words Jacoby Brissett? May I say the words Joe Flacco? May I say the words Davis Mills? May I say the words, I'm leaving so many people out, it's not funny. Skylar Thompson. I mean, 7 points premium and the game's at home is what you're getting. That's before we get to the obscene amount of the public that we knew would, of course, be on New England. Right now, 79% of the tickets are on New England, and the it's open at 5.5. You're lucky if you can find 5 anywhere. It's all moved to 4.5. So the 21% that are holding Denver are scaring the living you-know-what out of the books to move them off of the 5.5. You get where I'm going. I think there's many ways to win a football game. This is going to be one on the ground, running the ball, relying on McGlinchey, relying on Bowles, relying on a nice offensive line, relying on Sean Payton, relying on the defense. That's how this game is going to have to be won. And folks, if you thought the Bears had a fortuitous road, how about this road from New England? Think this through. Not only you get the 7-point premium, but they played the worst schedule, I think, in the history of the game. It was a sub 400 winning percentage that they played. Then they took a bye in the playoffs and greeted they played a home game against a team that plays in a dome in the snow. It doesn't get any easier than the road that New England's gotten. And lastly, if we had a lie detector into the New England locker room, how many would say, yeah, we think we're going to be there on Championship Sunday this time last year? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get Mike Vrabel, and we're a 4-win team, and we're a player away from, Championship Sunday. Not one person would say that. There's not one person, including Bob Kraft. So they're playing with house money. And on the other hand, Denver, who was 10-7 last season, they absolutely thought they'd be in Championship Sunday. If not this year, then last year. So for my 2 cents, I think Denver's going to win it outright.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower-cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower-cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical.
I was looking something up while you were talking about when you were talking about the wonderful seasons of Joe Flacco and Jacoby Brissett. They were 3-19 as starters this year. So I was, but hold on, IGO. I was planning on going with, I think it's too many points. Jared Stidham hasn't thrown a ball in like 4 years. I mean, it's been a while. And, Sean Payton has already started the talk of how he's yelled at Vance Joseph because he's tearing up our defense. And if there's anybody I don't trust when it comes to the media, it's Sean Payton. And what scared me most about New England was how poorly their offensive line played. Like that guy, we were talking about that, the guy from LSU, the left tackle, he was awful. Yeah, Will Campbell was awful. I mean, you can say Drake May didn't play a good game. I don't know who could have played a good game. I mean, he was getting hit in the pocket where they were just coming after him. And the Broncos defense, while not as good as the Texans, is still a formidable defense. The one thing that's weird about the Broncos, in my opinion, that actually seems to help when you play against a team like Buffalo and a team like New England is neither one of them has a number one that the kid from Alabama, who's their defensive back, I'm drawing a blank. His dad went to Florida State. Number two, he's their star defensive back.
The kid on New England?
No, the Broncos. The Broncos.
Surtain?
Surtain, the player. Say it again?
Surtain.
Yeah, Surtain. He was the player of the year last year. I think that not having a number one where he can just completely eliminate actually weirdly gives these teams an advantage. But I agree with you. I think 5.5 is too many points. So as much as I want to take to go Oppo, and I don't want I do want you to keep your perfect record, but I agree with you that 5.5 is too many points. And I just think that New England will keep it close. Denver will keep it
like
close.
It was the same scenario last night. It was the same scenario last night. They put a number out there as high as they could on Indiana that the idiots would take because the idiots are going to look at the last two that they didn't bet where Indiana had 2 blowouts. And they came up with 8.
Yeah.
And Indiana was dead public.
And it was 8.5 a number of times. I think if you want to take New England in this game, it's going down. As it gets closer, the money is not going on New England. People are going to look at that amount of points. And I will tell you, I bet it gets closer to 3.5. It never goes below 3.5, but I bet you can get a 3.5 by game time because I think people will start to believe in the hype. But I also think Vrabel against Peyton. Vrabel's defense, that defense played lights out against. As bad as Stroud looked, he looked bad because the New England defense played really well, and they are being slept on because they haven't been good all year, but they've gotten a lot of pieces back, and so
it helped. It helped that they're a dome team playing in the snow, so that also helped the defense look good against Stroud.
Yeah, but
but whatever. They're there. The other game, I'm with you. I mean, we're actually in a weird place. Where I know. Trust me.
I want to change my pick.
You can change them right now. Because I've been such mush. By the way, fading the public in the I pull out a stat for you for that New England spot. Fading the public has been extremely profitable in the playoffs. We're not at this, unfortunately, because the smart money's all over Denver. But if the game spread is between 5.5 and 10 in the playoffs, this is a playoff trend I'm giving you. Between 5.5 and 10, the total's below 50. That we know will be the case. But the game right now is pretty much 5 everywhere. Even though Mike and I are giving ourselves the luxury of the 5.5 because that's what it is at DraftKings as we speak. It's 35-23-1 against the spread for the dog in that scenario, and that is Denver. So that's 60%. So just a little, trend for you trends players out there. The Rams, I don't have much to say about them. I was impressed with how they got it done on defense against the Bears. I feel like the Bears were similar in nature to New England, a team that I just don't think thought they were going to be here. So, but the Bears gave them all they could handle. Could have absolutely been Seattle against Chicago on Championship Sunday. That would have been incredible. But I grudgingly will trust LA in this spot, Mike. I hate to mush you up and be on the same side as you because it's no fun being on the side of a guy who's 0-5 and coming off a 46% season. But it is what it is.
And what I was trying to look up while we were on here, what do you think the look ahead line is if you were, because they do this a lot of times, NFC versus AFC. I would say right now,
Let me guess. Right now, I would guess that the look ahead line for the Super Bowl would be, especially with the situation with Stidham.
Yep.
I would think NFC -6.5.
That's what I had. I can't find it, but that's what I was going to say. You want it below 7, but it would seem to be that.
And boy, that's going to be tough. If we're doing this thing in a couple of weeks and we got to handicap Stidham against Stafford, and it's 7, that's going to be one tough game to handicap. Again, I have a feeling it'll be 7. I don't think it'll be 7.5, but I don't think it'll be 6.5 either. Now that I think about it, what do you think it'll be? You think it'll be?
I was saying right now it would be 6.5, but I think the Patriots are going to win. I just think it's too many points. I think, I think, but either way, Seahawks versus either one of those teams I think will have a slightly lower line. Some of it will depend on how well each team plays, meaning if the Seahawks do what they did to the 49ers, it's going to be a massive spread. If it's what we have seen against those two teams, I think, and whichever team comes out, let's say it's 27-30, whatever, each their team ends, then I think it goes to that 6.5, 7. But you are 100%. If you wanted to pick a team right now to win, I would just say NFC, money line, because I don't see a way that either one of the AFC teams, because both AFC teams probably aren't teams that we expected to be here. The Seahawks and the Rams, we've been talking about since about week 8, being through the best teams. New England has been, again, they're great stories. And one of the quarterbacks from last year's draft class is going to the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand Bo Nix isn't going to be part of it, but he got him there. So either, last year, this draft class from last year is starting to look like, one of the like 1983. You got Jaden Daniels last year going to the conference championship game. This year you have Bo Nix and Drake May going to the championship. I mean, the
Caleb Williams was in the divisional round.
No, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. But that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And for
well, no, that was a great class.
Yeah. So the two guys you got to wonder about are Penix and who's the fifth? No, it's just Penix. Penix is the guy who may be the bust. There's always a bust. The
jury's still out on him, Mike. I mean, again, for a second year, it's the jury is still out on him. He was hurt. I'm not a big Penix guy, but I think I'd still throw him.
His problem is he's got a history of being hurt. Although I don't like seeing Atlanta hire the guy from the Browns because I think that will be a coaching mismatch against Todd Bowles and everyone else. And if they can get the right quarterback in place, because Stefanski has always been sort of tied to Cousins. So that if you can get Penix to play in Stefanski's system, I think Atlanta could finally be a problem.
I've always liked Atlanta. They all
I've always hated them, but that's personal.
I've always, but we'll get to that at Atlanta. Okay, folks, we'll see you back here not next week, the week after. We'll be breaking down the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna have some props ready.
We'll have Michael have his props ready, and we're looking forward to it. So for Mike, it's Andy. We'll see you in 2 weeks here on Taking It to the Streets.
goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade. So never too high, never too low, till we meet again.